affiliation or association with is in the 22nd Psalm, verse 27. It says, all the ends of the world shall remember and turn unto the Lord, and all the kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee. So this is really a petition for everybody to give God praise. So let's go to verse number 2. It says, serve the Lord with gladness and come before his presence with singing. Again, we're seeing the word Lord there in all caps. So we know we're not just talking about a prominent person. We're not just talking about someone who is a great political figure. No, we're talking about God. We're talking about the true and living God. So again, that word Lord there, it would most definitely be Jehovah. What is interesting is that the way the psalmist is tying serving and coming into his presence, it's giving us a clear understanding that, get this, that serving God cannot be separated from worshiping God. Worshiping God and serving God go hand in hand. And what is qualifying oftentimes the quality of our service is the fact that we are glad in the Lord. Our worship, we are glad, and our worship of in gladness produces serving God not in madness, not in frustration, not in doubt and in fear, but you're serving God with gladness. Understand this. Romans chapter 12, verse 1, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you what? That you present your bodies a living sacrifice. That is service. But understand this, when we're talking about a sacrifice, sacrifice is a form of worship. It's a form of praise, particularly in an Old Testament context, when it's talking about sacrificing on an altar. So, as New Testament Christians, we don't sacrifice on the altar, but get this, we sacrifice our will, we sacrifice our personal ambition, we sacrifice our time. Sometimes we sacrifice our money. And by us presenting these things, we are serving and worshiping, get this, at the same time. It is holy and it's acceptable unto God. And then Paul says, what? All of this is your reasonable service. It really ties nicely into verse number 2 when we're talking about serving God and coming before his presence. Worship and service go hand in hand. Matthew 4:20. It says, then saith Jesus unto thee, it says, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, get this, and him only shalt thou serve. Worship and service go hand in hand. John 4:24. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. What is that? The word truth, understand this, is often brings a definition of faithfulness. So you worship him in spirit and in truth, and it is the faithfulness, get this, of your servitude towards God that is the definition of your worship. Now, I thought it was interesting because when we're talking about serving the Lord with gladness, understand this, there is a very formal and very real sense of when we talk about service. This is not something that is intangible. This is not something that is obscure. It is not something that is inconspicuous, but it is something that is, in fact, very much seen. When you talk about serve, it means to labor, it means to do work. It means to do work and get this in the service of God. In Exodus chapter 12, verse 25, it says, and it shall come to pass when ye be come to the land which the Lord shall give you according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this what? Service. So it's understood that when you get to the place that God has designated for you, there's responsibility that comes with it. And that responsibility is a form of service, and we ought to do it with gladness. Now, here's the challenge with this. Because in a New Testament context, oftentimes our service is offered in doing church work. It's often done in doing kingdom work, and even in forms of evangelism, in forms of discipleship, in forms of sharing your faith and just being an encouragement to people. It's saying we serve. And I'm saying that service is often seen, but get this, scripture also tells us that we don't serve to be seen. And we don't try to draw attention to our service. So even though service and worship go hand in hand, and service is an external phenomenon, get this, the posture of our heart has to be that we're just doing this because we want to what? We want to glorify God. We want to show him that we're doing this in gladness. In Matthew 6, verses 3 and 4, it says, "But when thou doest alms," in other words, when you give to the poor, "let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth."